Welcome to the Haunted Morning Meeting Show by Two-Way. Stay if you dare.
I like that.
Expecting. Yeah, happy Halloween, everyone. Welcome to the morning meeting. That's from our friend from Ohio and the morning meeting AI orchestra. Appreciate you being part of this. Welcome in. Dan is all costumed up,
Yep.
but real life there. Thank you for being here. If you want to be on the conversation, raise your hand. And I couldn't help but notice Sean is wearing clothes, as am I, from our friends and sponsors at Fairway and Green. Here's a brief message from the folks at Fairway and Green. I read this straight from my phone here. This Halloween, don't get caught looking like a ghost on the green. Fairway and Green has treats so good, it's scary. Their polos are so smooth, Dracula ditched his cape. Their quarter zips, wickedly soft, spun from the spells of style and threads of luxury, whether you're carving pumpkins or carving drives. Fairway and Green will have you looking beautiful all season long. So don't be a fashion zombie. Rise from the dead, Fairway, and dress to thrill. Fairway and Green, where ghoul meets greatness. Sean, what are you wearing today from our friends at Fairway and Green?
Well, Mark, I'm glad you asked. I've got this lovely polo, which has an amazing collar, a beautiful feel to it. And it's overlaid by one of their amazing vests. Mark, this is a windproof vest. It keeps me warm when I go out and pretend to golf. Or just walking down the street, walking the dog. All of that's available at twoway.tv/fairway. But Mark, you can get that promo code 20% morning meeting, two-way, or frankly, anything at that site using the promo code two-way20.
Mark, by the way, people in the chat say red looks good on you, just for whatever it's worth.
And my Murakami hat that's got red, so it's gone for a matching thing. And this one says peace, love, and understanding right on the sleeve. So again, all available to you to be part of the Two-Way morning meeting team. Go to Fairway, twoway.tv/fairway. So today on the program, we're going to talk about the shutdown. We're going to talk about Election Day. This thing going on with Tucker Carlson and the Heritage Foundation, which is a little inside, but really interesting. Arctic frost, some of the controversy swirling around the president, and then 2028, two candidates whose potential is unknown, even to them. Rahm and Ro Khanna, we'll talk about them. And then, of course, it's Halloween, but it's also Friday. So that special feature, that branded segment that you all love so much, winners and losers of the week and what to look for this weekend, all here on a very special Friday edition of the morning meeting. As always, we'll talk about the day and then we'll get your questions in. If you're in the Two-Way platform, late in the conversation, please raise your hand. If you're watching on X or YouTube, Dan, what's your view? Smack in the chat? No smack in the chat.
At this point, I think we should just embrace smack in the chat.
It's
time. Yeah, turn
Wow.
it.
Yeah,
Just turn around.
Do your best.
Yeah,
do your
exactly,
worst.
exactly.
Put as much smack in there as you'd like. And Sean, are you for peace, love, and understanding?
I'm 100% behind that.
Yeah.
In fact, I'm doing an entire 527 that will spend dark money going in support of peace, love, and understanding.
Love
it's
that idea.
very counterintuitive, but that's
Yeah.
the beauty of it.
Yeah.
You're just going to run positive ads.
Yeah, exactly. The first dark money spent on positives. Anyway, please be part of the conversation. If you've never raised your hand before, think about Halloween as a good peg to ask your first question. Quick word from one of our sponsors, and then off to the races. Run through the news of the day. TakeLean.com. If you go to TakeLean.com, use the promo code Mark, you get 20% off. 20% off what, you ask? Well, tonight, as you're eating Twizzlers and Milky Ways, perhaps consider starting anew tomorrow with the products from Lean. TakeLean.com. Not for fad diets, not for weight cycling, gaining a lot by eating 10 pounds of Milky Ways, but by doing it the right way, losing weight using the products from Lean created by doctors. Oral supplement, not a GLP-1 injectable. Backed by science and allow you to maintain healthy blood sugar, control appetite and cravings, and of course, burn fat by converting it to energy. So if you want to lose weight in a sensible way, consider trying the products from Lean. Go to TakeLean.com, enter the promo code Mark, and they're not using promo code Mark to say anything about how pudgy I am. That's just the promo code. Promo code Mark, TakeLean.com, 20% off when you enter the promo code Mark. Thank you for your attention to that important matter. Here we go. The president today ain't doing much. This is
Going to Palm Beach?
Well, yeah, 101. He's getting out of town. He flew back from Asia, went to the Halloween party. First, let's show you that. Here's the president last night and the first lady. Adorable. And you'll notice some of the super adorable trick-or-treaters happen to be the children of Stephen Miller. and what's Mrs. Miller's name? Katie Miller, and Caroline Levitt. But here, the president's just flying to Palm Beach, leaves right at the end of the show. No public events, but if past his prologue, he'll be ultra social. Here's last night.
All right, whoever decorated gets an A+ for that. That's
A+.
outstanding.
Do you think those pumpkins are hand carved by Americans?
Yes.
Maybe.
Beautiful.
I also like Melania's outfit, coordinating with it. Like, very well done.
The whole thing. And is that the Millers? No, coming up are the Millers.
By the way, I love the way that he gets his basket. It's like the beginning of Price is Right when they hand it to the microphone.
Here are the Millers. Here are the Millers.
Yeah.
One of several now administration officials living in private military housing for security. And here's Caroline. Anyway, that's last night. Today the president goes. He's not got anything on his public schedule. I know what I'm doing wrong here. Stand by. I got a lot of screens going because of Halloween. I've got a whole screen of just Boris Karloff movies, and that is slowing me down. But now I'm on the right screen. Here we go. I will
say good for Trump for doing that. That those little traditions like Easter egg, Halloween, it's cute.
Totally agree.
By the way, my son to those.
Just to give you a hint, he then did a teletown hall in Virginia with Youngkin. I mean, I can't, he got off that plane, got back to the White House, did the trick-or-treating, then did a teletown hall. I mean, honestly, I was...
Well, he's not exactly in Southwest, Coach 35.
Nonetheless, here's a couple of young trick-or-treaters dressed as Donald and Melania Trump. And a Secret Service agent. Good costumes. I applaud those.
Yep.
I don't know what the Vances are doing for Halloween or what the vice president's doing today. No public schedule we know of. House and Senate are now both out. The government shut down. It's up to Congress to fix it, and they're off. Sean Spicer says, pox on all of you.
Yep.
Mike Johnson changing up the 10 o'clock press conference by featuring Agriculture Secretary Brooke Rollins, who, of course, oversees the SNAP program. And then he's also tonight. I don't know. Is Mike Johnson going to Vegas or is this just remote? He's speaking at a group. There's a group called the Republican Jewish Coalition. If you're involved in Republican politics, you know exactly who they are. They've been around a long time. Very influential group. And they meet regularly in Vegas because their patron saints are the Adelsons.
Yep.
And so Mike Johnson and a bunch of others are speaking there starting this evening. Ohio Redistricting Commission meeting this morning once again. All right, let's start with the shutdown. Lots of stuff going on there and nothing going on there. Hold on. Kill that out. Put up this. We've said there are three solutions, basically. Either the president intercedes, Chuck Schumer decides to go to Thune and strike a deal, or there's some renegade Democratic senators, principals, whatever you're going to call them, who break and provide 60 votes to pass a clean CR. Here's Chuck, or the Republicans cave. I shouldn't preclude that, but the same. Those are the forums: President, Schumer, Thune, or Democratic senators. Here's what Thune says about the Schumer track. This is a tweet from somebody from Punchbowl. He says, Thune said yesterday, the solution here is not going to run through Schumer. Now we have these events coming up in the next 5 days that everybody said perhaps could force a solution. We've got the SNAP benefits running out. We've got the Obamacare premium, the re-enrollment coming up, where people will see very high premiums. And then, of course, Election Day and Tuesday. Some people believe that regardless of the results on Tuesday, that'll somehow spur us to a solution. Let me just make sure I haven't forgotten anything here. 108. Last night, the president went on True Social, posted a long screed, if I can use the word screed without being accused of bias. Here's the AP headline. Trump says Senate should scrap the filibuster to end the government shutdown. Donald Trump has regularly said in various reasons he wants the filibuster to be scrapped because he says the Democrats will do it anyway for legislation. They have it. Mitch McConnell was stalwart in blocking the president's interest in doing that. John Thune also not a big fan of scrapping the filibuster. The votes are not there. There's already a number of Republican senators on the record saying they will not scrap the filibuster. So, Sean, obviously we're not going to have a solution today, but what track are we on now to solve this, if any?
Well, first of all, I do want to, the Republicans are silly. The idea that Democrats won't eliminate the filibuster the second they get in is ridiculous. So this is one of those dumb moves where we play this game saying we need to be better and then they screw us. So bad on them again. Bad strategy, bad strategy, bad strategy. We are no better. As you said, they left town. And most of them probably had a flight delayed, starting to finally feel it personally. We'll see. I think this weekend, the WIC thing continues to be, as we see through our own participants here on the in the meeting. I think this is going to be the point, pain point where they're at home, they see people hearing about the issues that they're dealing with. So we'll see what happens when they come back after a few days being back in their states and their districts.
Dan.
Yeah, I'm now a little skeptical it's going to end soon, because the same people who are telling me like, hey, I know we need to, kind of ultimately cut something here before this gets out of hand, are now saying, look at the polling. Like, the trend lines that we're going towards kind of break even have not kept going to where people are beginning to blame the Democrats. And so you have even people like Mark Warner, who you would think between the federal employees in his state, he's traditionally fairly moderate. Other kind of people who would probably be part of the coalition of the willing to reopen it, who are saying, nope, this is worth, remaining dug in. So we may be heading not towards a, movement next week, but as we get towards Thanksgiving, I still have a hard time seeing going through Thanksgiving with this, that for a lot of reasons, but Schumer's holding everyone together.
By the way, when something like this happens, there's public polling that people read, to Dan's point. Like, hey, the Washington Post did a poll. It's got to be noted. Like, they literally yesterday got a presentation physically in person that said, keep going. So when the Democrats
the Democrats
did. So this isn't like some random theoretical thing where there's a poll out there by Quinnipiac that they happen to read. They literally had a strategy session that said it makes sense to keep the government shut. So
Sean, in fairness to them, James Blair in the White House was up there a week and a half ago telling Republicans,
same thing.
Keep staying dug in.
Yeah, but the difference is Republicans are actually voting to open the government up, right? So the president saying get rid of the nuclear option.
Sean, all the public polling up until that Washington Post polling had things close enough that neither side could say this is a disaster. That Washington Post poll is either an outlier or it's a sign that things have changed, because there hasn't been a big public poll in a while. Would the Republicans have, through the RNC or some other way, would they have their own private polling? And could, if the post poll is a reflection of things having changed, could that sufficiently pressure Republicans to offer something to settle it more than just you have to open the government first?
So I would guess that somebody at the NRCC has tacked that on, right? I mean, that's just
just to give people an insight of how these things work, shouldn't they be polling it every day?
Yeah, but the thing is, here to your answer, here's how they're going to poll it. Should the government be opened after, or should we address healthcare after we reopen the government? And they're going to come back and say, "Yep, that." And so, as you can imagine, how you phrase the question is going to matter. So they're probably,
but the key question is, who do you blame, right? That's the headline of the Post poll. Does the White House, do you think, have polling that either conflicts with the Post polling or says the same thing? And again, couldn't that be the breaking point? They don't cave at that point, but they look for a solution. If the Post poll is right, and if you're the White House, you don't want to just rely on the one Washington Post poll. I'm just asking. No. So wouldn't they have been asking that question every day? Who do you blame?
No, not every day. It's just not I mean, they're not in the field. No one's paying for someone to be in a field every day. There might be every few days now. Every week.
But again, just to keep pressing on process, they know people who are in the field every day.
Yes.
They have friendly pollsters who are in the field every day.
All of this is going to come back to, here's what they're going to say. I mean, like I said, I've seen the movie before where they're going to go, look, they're blaming us, but as long as we say we'll open the government and do this, it shifts. It's like what, an informed ballot question. As long as we tell them that we're opening the government and then we want to deal with healthcare, we win this argument. So they might get told right now, you're bearing the blame of this, so you should say X to shift that, right? They're not getting told, oh my God, open it up.
Got it.
Here's what we need to do.
Got it.
I bet they're polling, and I bet the D-Trip, the DS, like everyone is probably once a week on this, is your base sticking with you? So I bet the White House says we're still at 95% with the base is with us. Then, the Dems, I think, are the same boat. The question is that middle kind of, 15%, like where are the independents? And I do think if trend lines emerge, it absolutely will factor into how they think about it. And I think, we'll get to some stuff later on here. A little more to say on this.
Okay, let's talk about the midterms. It poured rain in New York yesterday. So the early vote the early vote was disrupted. Anyone who went to the polls yesterday was foolish,
Floated.
really,
Yep.
or floated, foolish or floated. Here's Peggy Noonan in her column. She's a New Yorker, and she's not a big Cuomo fan per se, but she's definitely not a Mamdani fan. Peggy writes, New York should breathe deep, think twice, then think again before electing the socialist mayoral candidate. He is barely 34, has never had a real job, was elected 5 years ago to the state assembly, which is a badge you wear while you scrounge around for attention and connections. This isn't the resume of the person you want in a position to guide the future of one of the largest economies in the world. All three of us have heard from people in the last week who feel like Peggy does. They're not huge Cuomo fans. They might even be Republicans, but they're kind of focused now on trying to stop him from winning. Here are the early vote totals from the Gothamist 106. Again, some indication that the early vote is older than the primary vote was. This is what pro Cuomo people are hanging their hat on as much as anything else. Big turnout, which they'll need to win. It doesn't guarantee a Cuomo win, but it's certainly a necessary condition. And then in Virginia and New Jersey, guys, you agree with me? The conventional wisdom now is Democrats will win them both, but Virginia will be closer than people had thought. But New Jersey may be less close than people thought even a week ago. Is that, you guys share that view?
I'm still bullish on Virginia.
Yeah.
It's all get out the vote. Your ground game is worth a field goal. And so this is where I think this is going to test who's got a better ground game on both sides. I feel very good about Miaris.
The Attorney General's race.
The Attorney General's race. It's going to go backwards up. Jason will win by the most. I think John Reed might make it over. And then the question is, can Winsome get pulled over like she did or they all did in 4 years ago?
Dan, how are you feeling about the three
Virginia
marquee
and
races?
New Jersey, which is a remarkable thing where we thought we were this summer, is Democrats remain worried about voter base energy and turnout, which is, we all thought we in the off year with Trump, doing everything he's doing, that our base would be, jumping out windows to vote, especially in Virginia with the shutdown. I mean, with the Doge and everything.
Right.
Yet there are worries about Democrats turning out.
Yep. Okay, don't forget, Tuesday night, 8 o'clock Eastern time, join Two-Way in the New York Post for special election coverage. We'll be covering New York, New Jersey, Virginia, and then other races around the country. Election night coverage like no other. You'll be able to be part of the conversation the way you are here, and we'll be aggregating the coverage the way we do here. So please join us Tuesday night, 8 o'clock, with our partners at the New York Post for full coverage of election night. Go to twoway.tv to register if you want to be on the platform to participate. We'll stream on our YouTube channels as well as websites. But if you want to be part of the conversation, go to twoway.tv. You'll see a place to register. All right. We've spent a lot of the last 18 months or so with a civil war in the Democratic Party over Israel. That has been brought in at the elite level, but also the grassroots level. There's now a big fight within the Republican Party, the conservative movement, MAGA, over Israel. I don't know how much it's at the grassroots, although people at the grassroots talk about it. But at the elite level, it's quite intense. And it was inflamed this week when Tucker Carlson had, what's that guy's name?
Nick Fuentes.
Nick Fuentes. Thank you. Nick Fuentes on his show. And then the question, Tucker has been at cross purposes on Israel with a lot of people for a long time. Here's the headline now. The Heritage Foundation, which is a long-standing relationship with Tucker, has entered the fray. Heritage Foundation head, this is Associated Press headline, defends Tucker Carlson for hosting white nationalists with anti-Semitic views. Tucker did more than host Fuentes. He also had a conversation with him, and he said things about Israel. And the head of the Heritage Foundation, it's an extraordinary video, it's a couple minutes long, said, we're not going to cancel anybody. We're not going to cancel Tucker. We're not going to cancel Fuentes. We're going to continue to have a relationship with Tucker, and that people should be able to disagree with Israel. People who are critics of Tucker would say he's gone further than just criticizing Israel. Sean, deconstruct this. Is this an inside fight for 150 people, or is there larger meaning here?
I think this particular thing is a real inside fight. As you mentioned, Tucker and Heritage have had a relationship for a while. Kevin Roberts, in that video, the head of the Heritage Foundation, says, I abhor many of the things that Nick Fuentes has said in issues that he has, or positions on issues that he has espoused. But I believe in an open dialogue. And if these guys want to have a conversation, he was like, we're not going to respond to tweets and to emails saying cancel Tucker. Again, this gets back to this fundamental discussion that we've had. You said it the other day, Mark, like if some rando leftist wants to come on my show, I'd have him. I actually enjoy the conversations, and you've made it very clear. Like, what is wrong? Like, if you actually think somebody's really that stupid, then expose the hell out of them. Be like, come on the show. I want everyone to see what a nut job you are, how crazy you are, how anti-Semitic you are. But that's what we should do: is shine a light on that, not hide it. When you actually minimize that person, then someone goes, "Well, I've never heard of this person or that person. Who are they?" I actually believe the opposite, which is if you really think that they're that abhorrent, show everybody how disgusting they are so that they go, wow, I saw them. They're really bad. And I applaud Kevin for the idea that like this is crazy. Tucker had a conversation. I haven't listened to the whole thing yet, so I don't know what he actually said or didn't. But having a conversation shouldn't be the basis of canceling anybody.
Dan.
Well, I think that so I don't disagree with you, except Tucker didn't just have him on and, as you say, kind of highlight where he disagrees. And Tucker is one of the largest media personalities in this country. So he's not just a Joe Schmo podcaster with 1,000 people. The flip side of that is by having a sit down kind of lovely chat in which you're taking these issues and kind of giving them respect and giving them an airing and agreeing with some of this stuff, you're legitimizing it, which again, you're free to do. I think this issue is actually huge in both parties. They're coming at it from slightly different viewpoints. But I've said this before. I think if you're J.D. Vance and you're looking at 2028, it is not clear cut. I'm firmly with Israel. Like, I think he's going to have to walk a line both with younger Republicans, with the Tucker Carlsons of the world. Look at when Charlie Kirk was killed. The conspiracy theories that this was somehow Israel was involved, the Mossad. I mean, I think that's crazy, but I think it's a sign of what's to come.
Well, if you look at the Roberts video, he actually addresses how Heritage handles the issue of Israel, talking about the fact that when our interests are aligned from a national security standpoint, we should stand with them and blah, blah, blah. And I think that's where you're going to see a lot more of the Israel thing. The broader point, by the way, is this idea of canceling Tucker. Like, he got fired from Fox and then he built an empire. Like, you're not going to like, that's just, it's silly to me.
Yeah, we're not going to cancel him,
well,
but people could distance
a lot
him.
of people on the other side for stuff. I mean, that's going to be,
Okay, short answers for the next two guys, if you would. Arctic frost. A lot of Republicans on the Hill and online are outraged at this investigation. I've tried to have balance on this matter, and of course now taking heat from both sides, which whatever. Dan, of all the things you've learned about Arctic frost, what's the thing that either we know happened or there's a good chance it happened that concerns you as someone who cares about individual liberty and abuse of power?
I don't know, because we never really saw the light of day on this. It got shut down and it never came out. So we don't really know all the things that the government knew.
But is there anything about it that concerns you at all that you think needs more investigation?
No, I mean, I would go in the opposite direction, which is there is no doubt that there was a plan to try to disturb the certification of the election with a lot of senior members of government. And that to me is horrifying.
Okay. Sean, what about it? What about it you most troubles you? I know the whole thing probably does.
There's a tie. One is the depth, the breadth and depth of it. There's 450 organizations and individuals, and you question why a good chunk of them, it's like, what did they have to do with anything? Number two, this thing all got populated 15 months after the fact. And it's like, wait a second. If there was a concern about what happened around the election or January 6th, why did it take an additional 15 months to open up something? Why weren't you looking right then and there? Everything was out in the open then.
Well, that's not true. That is not true. That just started 15 months later and that everything was out in the open. That's just not true.
The Arctic frost started 15 months after the fact.
It was part of a broader investigation. As they learned more, they had to launch other things. So many people were coordinating on this batty idea of physically overturning an election.
All right, hold on. We got a lot of hands up. Thank you both for weighing in. Of all the things that we've learned about in the first 11 months of the administration, related to the ethics of the president, the crypto stuff, the ballroom, anything you want to choose, what's the single one that you think is the most questionable and that you think history will look at least kindly? What's the thing the Trump family or the president's done on the lawfare, anything you want? What's the thing that he's done that you think history so far will say, boy, that was really out of bounds. Dan.
Ooh. I think the crypto stuff is just so blatant.
Yeah. Okay. Sean.
I think the jury's out. I would probably go with Dan on that, meaning it depends on like what comes of it and what ties. If it's just the kids doing stuff, I don't know if there's a connection about what was going on inside. So I think the jury's out on that issue.
Yeah, I'd go with that one too. Okay. 2028. I want to talk about two candidates. Rahm Emanuel is the subject of a very long profile in The Atlantic by Ashley Parker, former Washington Post reporter. This is a classic of the genre. These kind of profiles used to get written all the time, but the one about Rahm is special. It'll be read by everybody in senior levels of Democratic politics. It's pretty favorable. Rahm will probably hate it. Here's the headline: Rahm Emanuel for president? Question mark. He'd like you to keep an open mind. Here's two paragraphs on the negative side. There's lots of positive, but here are the two paragraphs that kind of frame what the critics say, what the people who are doubtful that Rahm will be a significant candidate. Here's what they say. The case against Rahm Emanuel, according to his critics: he's not progressive enough. His only ideology is winning. He's more of a tactician, less of a principal, though he's long exuded main character energy. He's too short. He claims 5'8", or too old, at least for voters who want to get away from septuagenarian presidents. He'll be 69 on Inauguration Day 29. He has a problem with black voters stemming from his mayorship. He's too Jewish. His middle name is Israel. And then one more, this is more negative. And again, there's mostly positive in the stories. Emanuel is, quote, the exact wrong answer to what the Democratic Party needs right now because he prioritizes corporate interests, says this guy, what's his name? Cenk Younger, I don't know how to pronounce his name, co-host of the Young Turks. He believes that Emanuel's power stems from his friendly relationships with the donor class and political reporters who've been ornamenting his reputation for decades. In almost all the profiles I read about how charming Rahm is, Unger told me, but from our perspective, all we see is a disastrous ogre, not this charming Shrek guy. Fantastic quote. I don't much care for that guy in my experience with him, but Dan, we've talked about this so many times here. Did this piece make you think Rahm is a more serious candidate, less serious candidate, or no impact in terms of both nomination and general election?
It makes me think he's more serious just because he wants it and he's a student of this. He's hungry for it. Like he wakes up every single day, as you like to say, saying, what are the 10 things I need to do today? And I think as a Democrat, you just have to remind yourself there's a difference between X and the real world. And if X and the party base picked winners, Howard Dean would have been a nominee, Bernie Sanders, and then Elizabeth Warren. So at some point, the trend may break. But our base, with all its mighty and fury on X, is not the real world.
Yeah. So Sean, Rahm tried to micromanage the piece, and he told Ashley who to call. If she didn't call his recommended people, he said called back, said call these people. He also showed her messages between him and Republican members of Congress saying, "Rahm, you're awesome."
But he doesn't name them. He doesn't.
Yeah, he doesn't name them. But Republicans love Rahm and think Rahm's formidable because they don't really understand the Democratic Party, I would say. Sean, what was your evaluation of this and this piece and Rahm's chances?
I mean, it's to your point of I look at it like the Peggy Noonan equivalent of the piece. It's like to a very certain highfalutin piece of their party, they care about what Peggy Noonan thinks, but the grassroots doesn't. Like they don't probably even know who she is. I think
I love Peggy.
Well, that's the point. Thank you. There you go.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Case closed, Your Honor. I think to some extent people care what the Atlantic thinks in the Democratic Party, but I don't get the sense that that's where the base of the party is.
Yeah.
That being said, look, here's the way I look at this. If Republicans win Virginia and New Jersey, had a really, really good night, I've always said that it has no bearing on the midterms, zero, nada, one way or the other. It's just a total media BS narrative that somehow those two states have any indication. But I do think it has an impact on the ethos and the feeling of either side, right? Yep. And Democrats, if they feel like we did in 2004 with George Bush, where people said, I don't know, all I know is I want to win, and that guy says he can win, and we can raise the money, and so sure, let's get behind him. Did Democrats get desperate enough where they just said, you know what, he's right, we need to start winning again in order to do any of this stuff, and he can win, so let's screw it. But they have to feel like it's worth winning more than it is over ideology.
Totally agree. Two things not in this story, and again, Ashley's a great reporter, but I was surprised they weren't there. One is Obama going to endorse him? We've talked about that here before. And second is money. I believe Rahm, if Ari does a super PAC, if Rahm bundles correctly. I don't know how good he'll be at low dollar, but Rahm could be amongst the top 3 in fundraising in total money if you count the super PAC. I was surprised to not see that in the story. All right, Ro Khanna, another person whose presidential prospects people wonder about. Will he be formidable at all? House candidates, House members of the House typically have not done well running for president. He was on Next Up last night, and he mentioned something I hadn't thought of, which Politico actually led playbook with today, which is Ro Khanna appears to be the only Democrat asked to campaign by Mondami, Spanberger, Cheryl, and for Proposition 50. Here's my something from Next Up with me and Congressman Khanna.
But I've been so struck by this debate in the Democratic Party. I may be the only person who has campaigned for Abigail Spanberger, was invited by her to campaign in Pennington Gap in Virginia, was invited by Mikey Sherrill to campaign in Westfield and Livingston. I'm doing a rally for Mamdani on Saturday in Queens, and I've campaigned on No 150. And this idea that the Democratic Party can just pick one of these wings is, in my view, not thoughtful. We lost young voters. We lost rural voters. We lost suburban voters. And guess what? If we want to build a majority party, we've got to bring them all back. And I think we've got to be a big tent party that recognizes that different people are bringing different strengths to the coalition.
All right, I ask you to do. So, Sean, what do you think of, just to start with, forget his candidacy for a moment, what do you think of the fact that he's been invited in all those places?
I'm actually more interested in what Dan thinks, because the way I look at it is, if I would have guessed, and I just people aside, like I've gotten interacted with Ro. I think he's a sharp guy. He's very thoughtful when he speaks and what he adds. But I don't know that if you had told half the people in Alexandria, Virginia that Ro Khanna's coming, that they'd probably say who. And so I think to a niche, maybe he's not playing at the A level, and that's no disrespect to him. I think it's easy to have somebody come in and campaign for you, that you can be like, hey, pal around with me for the day. And I can say, Congressman Ro Khanna is here today. That's very different than like raise money and get people excited. So I don't see him at that same tier level. Maybe I'm wrong.
Dan.
I think it's a huge deal, because I agree with him, and we've talked about this. It's not either or. You need both. You need both an excited base, and you need to be able to attract, moderate and independents. Donald Trump has done that very well in his 2 winning campaigns. I think that it used to be that if you were from the House, you had no chance, because how could you get attention? How could you break through as, number 20 on the dais? Now with social media, if you're clever and you're creative, I think the seeds are there for him to be a player. Now, the question is, like, if Gavin Newsom, his governor, is running, if Kamala Harris, is also running, it will be a little bit harder. But don't underestimate that Mandani and Spanberger and Cheryl both asked him.
Yeah. All right, let's go to your questions now.
Like,
come on, unmute. Tell us where you're calling from and what's on your mind for Dan and Sean. Ro, go ahead, please. Welcome in, Congressman. For joining.
I'm glad I gave him a shout out.
Exactly, just chatting with you. Go ahead.
It's like the Mark Twain novel, where you want to be a president at your own funeral, and I'm hearing my own commentary about my own candidacy. So Mark, you wanted me to chat about going to Mamdani's rally?
Yeah, I want Dan and Sean to be able to ask you questions, but I'll just say, do you find if you campaign with Mr. Mamdani, does that mean you agree with everything he's ever said? It's kind of a softball question, but just explain how you think about campaigning with someone who you don't agree with everything with Spanberger either. But when when you campaign with him, people are going to say this guy agrees with everything. He's a socialist. Just explain how you think about that concept.
On a substantive level, we've got to build a big tent. Lincoln did, FDR did. FDR, the Tennessee Valley Authority, he did when someone was a rank segregationist and a rank anti-Semite. And so, the idea that you can move change with purity tests, and you have to agree with everyone, I don't think works. And then to build a broad coalition. I mean, look, Donald Trump was cutting a deal with Robert Kennedy the day the convention was going on, and we refused to answer the guy's call. I mean, I don't expect how you expect to win in a big country that has Indian Americans playing cricket in Fremont, people rooting for the Phillies in Bucks County, Pennsylvania, and rural Virginia, without thinking that you're going to need different people as part of the party.
Sean.
Well, first of all, I just got to acknowledge you're in California right now, right?
I am in DC, but I'm headed to New York actually for the
Oh
rally.
no! I apologize because I was just going to give you super props for being up at 6:30 a.m.
In a
I like
tie and
Mark. I
everything
don't know
ready to
how.
go. Yeah.
No, I guess the question is, look, here's my bigger issue on logistics. I mean, I'm not asking you to answer your question because obviously that's a problem. But don't you think that like going to the national level requires an apparatus of serious nature, so that if you or someone of your stature, hypothetically, were to make a decision like this to go beyond, you'd have to have a serious, larger national apparatus that could tap into fundraising, create a surrogate operation, etc.
Absolutely. Look, my guess is, and I don't know what I'm going to do, but my guess is that 90% of people who run for president underestimate how hard it is, and they underestimate how difficult it is. By the way, I think that's true of even some of the highest profile governors who run. I think it's from what I've heard, it's a grueling, difficult process. And I think anyone who would do it would have to have a infrastructure and fundraising and logistics to be viable. It's not just
How
you get up.
how much do you think the calendar plays into a decision of somebody like you? Do you care whether New Hampshire goes or Nevada goes first?
Well, look, first of all, I'm not powerful enough to have any influence over it. But I think that for someone to emerge who doesn't have significant name ID, putting me aside, you would need at least those early states to be states where retail campaigning really mattered, where you didn't, for example, if you started in a first state being Georgia or something where you need a lot of money and name ID, I think that would be much tougher than if you started in a small state. And I also think for a candidate coming from the outside, you've got to do very, very, very well in an early state. And sometimes people make the mistake, they build out a national apparatus, and it really doesn't matter if you can't have an upset in an early state.
Dan.
So, Congressman, first off, congratulations for being I think the only person who was invited across all strands. What common thread runs through all those different places that you've been asked to go and campaign? Like, what is it about you that you think appeals to the Mandani crowd and to Spanberger and Cheryl?
Well, I saw the Politico article. They were like, well, the good news for Khanna is he's not controversial enough. The bad news is no one cares. There's not enough upside. So, but I think it's a willingness to be a bit humble. I mean, for example, Dan Lipinski, who I'd endorsed against, we had a heated exchange on this program.
Yeah, on here, yeah.
And just the other day, he invited me to come to do a panel with him in DC on the Hoover Institute, and I'm happy to do it. So I try to not be judgmental of people. I try to extend grace. I try to say, hey, I have my convictions, but I don't have a monopoly on the truth. And a friendliness of trying to see the best in people. I guess that's why I've tried to build relationships, and I try to do that across the aisle as well. Some people say, "Oh, is that just a lack of conviction?" I think there's a difference between having convictions and having a temperament of dogmatism.
Yeah, go ahead,
Mark. Do you mind? Can I just ask you one? Issues aside, we've played this out every morning. Strategically only, because again, I'm not looking at like what our side versus your side thinks about the shutdown. Walk me through what you think is a construct of a solution, right? Like, is it the vote first? Is it like, we all know where everyone's lines are dug in, but just what do you think is a realistic construct of a deal that would get the government open?
Well, look, I don't understand why we can't do things like Josh Hawley's bill, first of all, while the government is shut down. Like, extend SNAP benefits, pay the troops, pay federal workers. I would vote for that. And that to me is what's most frustrating, is why can't we just get some of the fundamental assistance to people who are working and who rely on food assistance. A longer term, I think it'll probably some version of at least a vote on the healthcare tax credit extension. There's probably going to be some guaranteed vote. I hope we get some extension, but the deal will be around that line.
Congressman, just some free advice. I would think better off wearing a tie-dye shirt than that suit and tie to the Mamdani rally. Just so it makes you sure you leave some time to change.
Always in a suit.
Mamdani's always in a suit, a dark suit.
It's true. Nonetheless, I'd go tie-dye. Congressman, thank you for joining us. We'll see you up here in New York over the weekend.
Thank you. Thanks,
you might want to take the train also.
I will be taking the train.
Okay, thank you.
Or
Grateful
drive.
Very grateful to you. Thank you. All right, thanks for that. Sean, winner of the week.
My winner of the week is Virginia taxpayers. This was look, I think Donald Trump won the week, but it's an obvious one. So I got this, and I'll show you that part because I cut out everything. Yesterday in the mail, every Virginia taxpayer got $200. I'm married, so that's half of that technically is my wife's. But you know, look, technically, I'm gonna check Virginia law. But I say that because, look, this is just from a political standpoint. We're a few days out from an election. People get a thing saying, hey, here's the administration giving you money back. Say what you will about a cynical ploy. Who cares? My point is, at the end, going into 72 hours out of an election, having people get a check in the mail that says, here's $200, $400 a couple, is a huge boost. So hopefully that gets Winsome over the finish line.
Dan, winner of the week.
My winner of the week is Gavin Newsom. We
talked
about it earlier this week. I mean, it looks like this proposition is going to win. The question that we're all trying to game out is how much additional momentum he is going to generate. If you kind of look at the marathon of running for president, the first year is kind of coming to an end here. And I don't think there's any doubt that Gavin Newsom has won this year and is positioned himself going into next year with a head of steam. So for that, he is my winner this week.
Winner of the week is Putin. Trump and Xi meet. There's no apparent effort to do anything to get China to help end the war. Putin wins again. Sean, loser of the week.
Well, I was going to go with the knuckleheads that robbed the Louvre and then got caught because they left their own DNA. That's the obvious loser of the week. But I politically speaking, I went to the people who got pardons from Biden after this whole report came out that the House Oversight Committee issued. There are serious questions about the legality of the pardons and whether or not, when you have a staff secretary saying that we didn't see Biden for 6 to 8 weeks, the question becomes, there are emails that got put out saying, what do we do? How do we know that he actually approved this? And people saying, we don't. If I were someone who got a Biden pardon, I would be talking to my attorney saying, what do I need to worry about right now?
Dan, loser of the week.
The Argentinian bailout. It is incredibly unpopular, both in the Democratic Party, in the Republican Party, and with the electorate. I still don't really understand why we did this, and the fact that the Trump administration can't really give a good political explanation. I have a feeling we will be hearing a lot more about this in the next 13 months.
Sean, what are you looking for this weekend?
I'm looking at the president's schedule. We talked about what he did this week, trick-or-treating last night, teletown hall in Virginia last night. Does he keep going? I mean, honestly, I was like, how does he at some point he has to collapse. So also Navy is 7-0, one of 6 remaining undefeated teams. They play North Texas tomorrow. So let's go 8-0, baby.
Dan.
I'm watching Trump on Truth Social because the headlines that are kind of beginning to emerge about China and the deal are not very, they're not 12 out of 10, as he said. And I wonder if he's getting a little uncomfortable on the shutdown. And so does he start ranting this weekend on Truth Social on both? And I would even maybe add Israel to that as the peace in the Middle East continues to be a little wobbly.
All I want is a Game 7 in the World Series, and of course, rooting for Dan. All right, one message from a sponsor, and then questions from you also. Please raise your hand if you want in on the conversation. New sponsor, the folks at Poncho. Get $10 off your first order from all their great classic denim and flannels and new style clothes, comfortable, versatile, durable for whatever the season brings. Go to ponchooutdoors.com/Mark for $10 off your first order and free shipping. This stuff is lightweight, comfortable. It fits right. I've been wearing it all week. And the Poncho promise is quite clear. It's as clear as if Dan Turrentine says, I'll meet you for coffee at 6, he'll be there at 6. Free shipping, free returns, free exchanges to make sure you get the right fit. Poncho stands by every shirt. They'll move to make it right if you decide you don't like it. Again, go to Gear Up for the Fall. Go to Poncho for every piece built for comfort, performance, lasting style. PonchoOutdoors.com/Mark. Get $10 off your first order and free shipping. And when the box pops up and says, how'd you hear about it? Say you heard about it from Ro Khanna or from the morning meeting. Up to you. Thank you for your attention to that matter. We start with Dean because Dean sends us so many great theme songs, including today's Halloween spooky version to promote the program. Dean, welcome in. Trick or treat. Happy Halloween. What's on your mind for Sean and Dan?
Trick or treat. Thank you, Mark. This is actually my first time on the morning meeting. Very quickly, Sean, I blame you for everything that's happening with this administration, and I thank you. You took more arrows in the first administration than anyone else. Thank you for allowing this to happen and taking all the injury that you did. I'm curious, Dan, what's the worst part of training for your marathon? And from all of you guys, I'm curious on a Halloween, what's your favorite candy bar?
Oh, I was going to ask that when you were reading the promo for Lean, everyone to go around.
Yeah.
I'll say my favorite candy is Reese's peanut butter cups, not the little ones. The people who do like the big one with the two big ones, like the actual bars of candy, like hat tip, it's great. I steal the Reese's pieces from the kids when they come home. The worst part is like the dog days in the middle of the 16-week regimen, just motivating yourself when it's really hot or when it's raining to just keep your, is a challenge.
Sean, favorite candy bar?
I'm staring at Ryan Roding right now. If you're not
Ryan's coming in 1 second. Trust me.
I will go. Dan went Reese's. I think frozen Reese's peanut butter cups, but a good Twix. I could Twix. There's something about
you and
Twix.
me both.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm a Twizzler guy, but if you specifically ask candy bar, frozen Milky Way. Dean, thank you again. Thank you for the songs as always. Amazing work with you in the morning meeting AI Symphony Orchestra. Ryan, welcome in. We want to know what the kids are doing for Halloween. But then tell us what's on your mind. Gentlemen, you guys like Halloween, I bet, right?
Yep.
What's your favorite candy?
Reese's Pieces.
Yeah, and what are the costumes for tonight, guys?
I'm a shark.
Yeah.
Like a blow-up shark. And then what are you going to be for Halloween?
A Spidey.
Spider-Man?
Spider-Man. Do you guys got your costumes handy? You want to go run and get them on? Is that possible? Or is that asking too much? We'd love to see him. While Dad asks us a question, go get outfitted. We want to see him.
Yeah. He'll get
Ryan.
on his shark costume.
Okay, awesome.
But thank you for calling on me.
Of course.
Really appreciate you guys. I had a question about kind of the effects of the SNAP thing. So we live in Iowa, and our governor's been talking about if the SNAP benefits go away, how they might try to use the surplus that our state has to try to meet the need of that. I wonder if that is going to be more common. I don't know how many states have a surplus. I don't know if any of you three.
Yeah, it's a great question. I should have said at the top of the show, I meant to. A federal judge in Massachusetts is expected to rule today on the question of SNAP benefits, and that judge may say the government must use surplus funds. And as has been reported by the Associated Press, there may be enough surplus funds to carry all benefits throughout November. So it may be that Iowa doesn't need to dip into its fund. Every governor has been having meetings with their senior staff about how to deal with this. Everybody will deal with it in a different way. Not every state is as frugal and long planning as Iowa is. So not every state's got a surplus, but many states do. But I think the most likely outcome, based on what this judge has said so far, is that even if Congress doesn't act, there'll be funding for at least a couple weeks. Sean.
Do you really? See, the thing that I find interesting is that federal judge in Massachusetts telling the government how it must appropriate. I can't. First of all, it'll be immediately appealed.
Yeah,
you cannot tell the federal government how to spend money during a shutdown. I just don't understand how the judiciary thinks it has a rule.
Yeah,
they shot that judge for a reason.
Good point.
I mean, I think they shot that judge.
What it's been said is that it would be hard for the administration to appeal if a judge says you have the money and spend it. If they're appealing, it may be politically unwise.
True, but the other X factor right now is that the judge, the Supreme Court ruling earlier this year that said they can only rule within that jurisdiction.
100%.
So you'll get a Massachusetts payout. Ryan, I think one of the things can I ask, how did we talked about the China meeting and the soybeans. How did that go over in Iowa?
I think farmers are interesting people in that they're very committed to their political party, generally speaking. So I think they are very hesitant to go against the president if they voted for him, even when it's bad. And I think there is a hesitancy about soybeans. I will say in Iowa, from my understanding, corn is much better this year than soybeans. But here's Arthur and his.
Hey,
Spider-Man,
nice
that's
job.
amazing. You look spectacular, man.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
But I would say I think corn was doing better. So I wonder if while the soybean market is not particularly great at the moment, although it sounds like maybe that might change, I think farmers are willing to be sort of flexible in that way. But
Dan, thoughts? Thank you, Ryan. Dan, thoughts on the food stamp thing?
I think every governor, to Mark's point, is frantically trying to figure out what can they do. It's the real lives of real people. Governors, mayors don't have the luxury of just sitting there and blaming people. They have to try their best. And I've said this for the last 2 weeks. The headlines in local news are all about the number of people being impacted.
Yeah. Ryan, you got the other costume for us before?
There
Oh
he
my
is.
goodness.
Oh,
Ryan, there's
all
Ryan,
right.
there's a land shark. Land
Yeah,
shark.
look out. Don't eat Spider-Man.
That is awesome. Boys, get a lot of good candy. Make sure your
Yeah.
parents vet it.
we will.
Have a great Halloween. Ryan, thanks
Good
for being
luck.
part of Two-Way. Grateful to
Yep.
you. All right. Trent, welcome in. Tell
That's
folks who don't
awesome.
know where you are, what's on your mind.
Hey, Trent Lucas here. This is baby Caroline. We're in
Hi,
North
Caroline.
Virginia.
Neil Diamond and I call her Sweet Caroline, just so you
Yeah,
know.
exactly. Oh, the songs played regularly in our house.
I bet.
One question for Dan, one question for Sean. Dan, a couple years ago, right after the 2022 midterm, NPR released a article, and it was saying basically that Democrat Party strategy to fund MAGA candidates in swing states seemed to have worked. Can you convince me that the mayor race in New York and the candidate in Maine is not a similar strategy by Democrats to put somebody far left to get more of a moderate crowd and a higher turnout for an establishment candidate? And then for Sean, what's the problem with the North Virginia Republican Party? There's no ground game. There's nobody on the street corners. Nobody's come by the house. There's no signs. It just seems non-existent.
Dan first, then Sean. Thank you. Those
Yeah,
are great questions, Trent.
Yeah, Democrats have for the last couple of years meddled in Republican primaries with ads to try to build up the candidate that they thought would be the most unelectable. Missouri, a couple of years ago, they had the famous case of that. I would be surprised because that's to divide the Republican Party. I would be surprised if we were doing it to ourselves because it exposes a much bigger fissure, which is, to Ro Khanna's point, you ultimately want everybody together. Like, we can't win national elections with our party at war with itself. So to my knowledge and in my belief, we would not do that type of jiu-jitsu against ourselves. The other side, sure.
Sean.
I would just say first on the question you asked to Dan, I think too much credit sometimes is given to the parties. Like, somebody doesn't run and do all this because they get asked to, unless it's proactive, meaning the NRCC might say, hey, Dan, I hear you're thinking about running. Just so you know, we would definitely be willing to introduce you to the right people and do some things. Entice somebody, yes. But that's the extent of it. It really just, people give the parties way too much credit when it comes to stuff like that. On the Northern Virginia ground game, first of all, I've probably been I think 4 times they've had Spanberger or Spanberger Victory knock on my door trying to convince me to vote for Abigail Spanberger, which kind of makes me question their data model. I haven't had anybody.
They've seen some of your squishy comments here.
They have, yeah. So they might think that there's a shot. We've never had a good ground game in Northern Virginia, to be honest with you, that I'm aware of in 30 years. So I'm not sure why I would have expected anything different. Money is very tight right now and that's Winston is way behind on the money game. The last couple weeks, a little less so, but you can't turn on a ground game like a spigot.
Yeah. Trent, you guys doing trick-or-treating with Caroline or maybe not?
Well, she's sick, so we're about to head to the pediatrician's office. So we'll see if she gets to go out. But the 2 older girls will definitely be out in the neighborhood.
What are their costumes?
We're all going as the Ghostbusters this year. So the whole family. So
something strange in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
All right. Caroline, feel better.
Thank you all. Y'all have
a great day, great weekend, great Halloween with the girls. All right. Let's see. We got time for one more. Carrie, welcome in. Tell folks who don't know where you are, what's on your mind for Sean and for Dan.
And please say your last name, just because
Yes.
I just want to know how you say it.
Well, it's Antonopoulos. I was actually on with you guys a couple of weeks ago. I was trying to change my moniker so it said Carrie from the Chicago suburbs again. But that's where I'm from. I'm in Downers Grove, which is western suburbs of Chicago. So thanks for calling on me and good to see you guys again. So I'll try to be a little less long-winded than I was last time, but I'm hoping you guys can give me some perspective. Actually, I have a question about SNAP. Something fortunate, I've been fortunate enough to not have spent a lot of time giving a lot of thought to prior to the shutdown. Shutdown has certainly shed a light on it in a way that, I hadn't really thought about it previous to this. But I'm hoping you guys can kind of help me square sort of what I'm seeing and what I'm feeling. And on the one hand, of course, you had Nicole earlier this week. She was incredible. I was driving while she was talking and literally grabbed my chest in the car because her testimony was so compelling and so touching. And as an American, I want to support my fellow Americans. Hi, Nicole. I want to support people who need help and who need a leg up. And I think that's exactly what the program is designed to do. On the other hand, I am bombarded online by a couple different categories of videos, right? One is the purge videos, which your last caller yesterday talked about. Even putting that aside, videos of people online expressing not gratitude, not humility, not even fear of losing them, but just absolute entitlement to these benefits. And while they're expressing these entitlements, I'm seeing people who have eyelash extensions and nails and Botox and lip injections and hair highlights. And that, to me, as someone who knows what those things cost, it's really frustrating to hear someone express entitlement over losing SNAP benefits when I know what you're spending on your hair and your nails and your face. Taking that even one step further, now I'm starting to see videos of people who are admitting they're not even using the SNAP benefits to buy food. They're selling them, right? They're taking $2,500 worth of EBT and selling it for $1,200 cash to fund their lifestyle. So help me square this. Is this the algorithm messing with my brain and trying to fire me up?
Great framing, Carrie. Stand by a second. And Nicole, I brought you in with that. You're raising your hand just because I don't know if everything you said is reverberating still in your life. It is in mine. I continue to hear from people every day about how inspirational you were and how important, not just for two-way, but for the country, what you said was. So I'd love for you to react to what Carrie said and just update us if anything else has happened with you since we last talked.
Yeah, I super appreciate that. I mean, I think that the ripple keeps rippling, I think that I've heard that feedback from a lot of people. And I love that is the message. I told my son and he was like, Mom, so many people did a good thing because of you. And I'm like, yeah, I think that is like the truth of it. And I think that when it comes back to it, for me, it's about doing something good and what my intention is when I do it behind doing something. And I've seen plenty of those videos too. I think we can all admit that there's probably waste, fraud, and abuse in every government-run program, super open to some type of doging of SNAP. But in this moment, it's not a negotiation chip. That's something that is happening because the government isn't open. It's not because we're negotiating SNAP benefits.
Right.
It's a secondary. So
yeah, warn the affiliates. We're going to run a little bit over. Sean.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I agree with what Nicole's saying, Carrie. I find some of the videos that I've seen and some of the anecdotal evidence about the fraud, the abuse, and to be reprehensible. I also think that when you stop and you realize 42 million in a country of about 300, so between 1/6 and 1/7 of the country is reliant on the government and dependent on the government for food, it is a broader and bigger problem that we're not even addressing, right? That's and then there's the fraud piece. But to Nicole's point, you don't negotiate with the fire department when the fire's happening. You do it after and say, hey, now that we know, let's look at, the equipment and the wall, so right now let's get people the help that they need. Right. And then once everything's back open, and this is my constant problem with Congress, and the same thing with the appropriations problem. They get the done and they go, next time we won't let that happen until we do. And we keep kicking the problems down the road. So I hope that at some point we can stop and say, okay, how do we go fix that? And that enough people, because that's what they respond to, actually agree with that.
All right, folks might remember Elise works with a food bank in the Silver State. Elise, I hope the answer is yes. Did the two-way community come through it all for you?
Yes, absolutely. I called in last week to say that utilization of the social safety net is not partisan, but neither is Americans' ability to care for their neighbors. So we had over 90 donations for about 90 people donated for about $5,000. So that is incredibly helpful. And I was touched by everybody who donated.
All right, thank you. And again, keep going. Even as we hit the deadline here, everybody should continue to find ways to contribute to Elise's organization or in your own community. And ladies, really grateful to all of you for being part of the conversation this week, and really honored that you'd come back, share your voices, and we'll continue to talk about it and focus more on the real lives of real people than on Congress's inability to get this done. So thanks to the three of you. Grateful to
Can
you.
I just say, every time Nicole comes on, she's more well-spoken than the last time. Nicole, there's an authenticity to you. You can't fake that. Nice job.
Amazing. Thank you all. Sean, what do you have tonight?
Michael Knowles, of the Daily Wire, testified in front of the Senate Judiciary Committee on political violence. We have a long discussion about political violence, what to do about it. Plus, we talk about Arctic frost and a lot of those other fun stories tonight at 6.
Dan, anything you want to tell us about except proper stretching techniques?
And eating a lot of bagels? No, I will. Nothing. The kids are going out. They're all excited to trick or treat, and just looking forward to the weekend.
All right, a couple of two ways left today and for the end of the week. First, Ethan Strauss, random offense. His guest, Amin El Hassan. I hope I said that right. Former front office executive and a member of the Basketball Illuminati podcast. That's 2 p.m. Eastern time today. Please join Ethan. And then two-way tonight is a special time tonight because of Halloween. I got some trick-or-treating to do. So we'll see you at 4 o'clock here on the two-way platform with coverage of all the day's events. And the New York Post, Ricky Schlott will be amongst my guests, New York Post columnist. So join us at 4 o'clock on the two-way platform. It'll stream live on YouTube and X, regular time at 6 o'clock. So please join us. And reminder, again, next Tuesday night, Ricky, as well as Lydia Moynihan of the New York Post and other two-way and New York Post colleagues will be part of our special election night coverage like no other. You'll be part of the conversation just like you are here every day. So please join us starting at 8 o'clock Eastern, coverage not just of the New York City mayor's race, but of New Jersey, Virginia, and all the races around the country. Please join us for that. And the three of us will be back Monday morning. Dan will be sore.
Enjoy your extra hour.
Dan will be sore,
Yeah,
and
that's right.
we get to fall back and grateful.
We should have touched on that today.
Yeah, grateful to everybody for being part of the community, and we will see. The three of us will see you Monday morning. Have a great weekend.